Hello. How's everybody doing? Sorry, I'm eating my chocolate chip cookie. It's good. That's so good. How's everyone's weekend? Hey, Dingleberry, what's going on, buddy? Hey, Dingleberry. Check out my new, what do you call it? Mouse pad. I can't see it. Dang it. How do I do this? It's me. It's a big Risk Immersed. I mean, it's massive. I'm chewing like a cow on camera. It's great. Yeah, it's got to be 3 feet long and a good 18 inches tall. It's a massive mouse pad, and it's got the old Risk Immersed on it. It's awesome. You can get it down below on the merch. It is awesome. Happy anniversary! Everything is awesome. Morg Meme, welcome back, kiddo. Welcome, Jim. Morg Meme, this stream is for you. We're going to talk about some stuff that I have always focused on. One of the best things for me in my life journey has been laughs in fear. Has been the ability to do the hard things, even when everything says stop. When you know it's the right thing to do, to keep going and to embrace it and know that you are the best person for that moment, for that task, and for the reasons that you put on it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. Specifically, courage I want to talk about today. I want to talk about what it means to be a person that lives not fearless, but not fearful, if that makes sense. So it's important that we have... Diablo, you are correct. You are an absolute nerd. And I see how you put Morg at the end there. That was a mistake, clearly. But I assume you're just saying hi to Morg at some point as you were calling yourself a nerd. Anyways, so clearly. Welcome back, Diablo. Thanks, buddy. 14 months. That's freaking amazing. I love you, buddy. I appreciate you being here. Hope everyone had a great weekend. But yeah, today we're going to talk about this idea of courage and what it means to be not fearful. So I'm just going to make myself some notes because I'm going to talk really fast and I'm going to talk myself out of certain sentences. Fearful. I want to come back to this idea of fearful versus fearless, because those are important terminologies to distinguish when we have this conversation of courage. Because courage is not an idea of, the warrior who, when the building is burning and, babies are falling out of windows and whatever the nonsense is. This crazy, unprepared person that just runs blindly into a building. There is an element of that where, there has to be that person who says, I am willing to run into the fray. But the idea there is they go about it in a way where they don't create two casualties, right? They go about it in a way that has some measure of guaranteed outcomes. Now, and I say some measure. There is never a guaranteed outcome on anything. The moment you introduce people to the equation, and that is everything, you have some measure of unguaranteed. So that's really the conversation of today. So I guess we need to start at answering the question, like, what is courage, right? So, here's my question to you. How do you guys define courage? Because I don't think it's an easy thing to define. You're asking a question that I think even if you have the definition in front of you, you're going to look at it and you're going to say, well, I agree with that, but I don't agree with this, and blah, blah, blah. So I think some of this is, and I always talk about personalities, but I really think that some of this is personality driven. And I love the fact that I love that we're on, this is my jam. I'm just going to say this out front. I love these conversations. I love having strong conversations about difficult subjects like this. Because courage is something that I think some people are, it's funny you say, they're afraid of having courage. And I say oftentimes they're afraid of it because, hey, recruit, wrong time, buddy. Welcome back. And I say oftentimes people are afraid to talk about courage, ironically, because they think they're going to have to do something that they perceive as scary. So and this is why I'm asking you, what is your definition of courage? So take 2 seconds and give me a 1-sentence response. I think courage is what? 1 sentence, 2 sentences, a paragraph, I don't care. Give me your definition of courage. Pardon me. And then I'll tell you kind of what I bring courage into. So I'll give you a different dictionary definition of it, and then I'll give you my definition of it. Because I think mine's fairly similar to the dictionary version of it, but mine varies just a smidge because of my personality, right? I feel like this camera's making me feel short. Boop. There we go. Courage is to be scared but not so scared, but to do the scary thing anyway. I got you. Yeah. Courage is the inner strength to do something that's difficult for you personally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So is courage, would you safely say then that courage is a state of mind? Is it something that you have to mentally overcome or physically overcome? Because that's kind of how I'm measuring this, right? So courage to me is hey, Ellie, what's going on? Because it's so heckin' early? Yeah, probably. And this isn't even early. I'm actually a half an hour late. I'm glad you made it, though, Ellie. Glad you're here, kiddo. I love Ellie. You love Ellie. We all love Ellie. Yay, Ellie. So, Ellie, we're talking about courage. Tell me what your definition of courage is. So if I was to say Ellie has courage, what does that mean? Give me a 1-sentence response, and I know it's early, so it'll be a great response, I'm sure, because early responses are the best responses. Right? So while you're typing that, Elle, so again, I asked the question, is courage merely a state of mind? So when I say it's a state of mind, have you talked yourself into something? Is it something where I have courage because I have the physical strength to move or to do or to break or to fix or whatever the thing is? Is it purely a belief in an ability? Like what is it? Because the definition would say it's a condition or a quality of your state of mind. Right? And I mean, you can even take it one, hey, wasn't my shirt down? What's going on? It's the Twitch Tonight Show. Absolutely. So I would take it one step further to say courage is also something spiritual. So, I mean, obviously me being somewhat of an ordained minister, I look at things with a spiritual twinge sometimes. Not always, but I try to add, my flavor to it. Uncle Jim, welcome back. 14 monks, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There you go. So, hey, is anyone here a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan? If so, type below who's your go-to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Ellie says, going against your fears to do something great, even if it's just making yourself get out of bed in the morning. That is, for a lot of people, Ellie, that's a fear, right? That is a huge one. Michelangelo, Pog. Absolutely. I was a Donatello fan. I liked his weapons better. Yeah, Donnie, that's a girl right there. Donatello was the best. Yeah, because I mean, it's so when you say the condition of your mind or your spirit, if you are, again, this idea of being fearful versus being fearless. Fearless, Mikey's the fun one. Fearless is to me, if I say, oh, that person's fearless, it's a misnomer to me. Because if I say you're fearless, to me, my initial connotation, my initial thought is being fearless means that you're also careless. So I put those two things together. Fearless means, to me, it tends to be careless. So a lot of you know, and you'll see me make notes as I go so I can come back to words. So just bear with me if you see me stop for a second to write. So a lot of you know I was in the military for several years. And I was a machine gunner to start. Very heavy weapon, very dangerous weapon, and a firearm that has devastating capabilities. After a couple years of doing that, I remustered and I became a paramedic, an airborne paramedic, but just a paramedic. We'll just focus on that for a second. And one of the things, and I've told you guys this story before, and has always stuck out in my mind, and it's this idea of being fearless. We were, every morning when I was in training for my paramedics course, we would go for a run every morning and every night. And we would go for a run. And while on the run, you never knew if it was just going to be a run or if somewhere in the middle of that, you were going to come across some exercise to prepare you for being a military paramedic. So what they would do on this 5 or 10 mile run is they would stage a car accident. They'd stage a bunch of gunshot victims. They'd stage a firefight or something along the way that you would be caught in the middle of that you had to respond to. And on this particular day, we were on a regular run. And I remember it was just before a big hill that we had to climb. A hill that I was very familiar with because I have many stories about this stupid hill. And as we were getting to the base of this hill, this guy with all this fake blood and makeup on comes running out of the bush. Oh my God, come help us. We're so many dead. People are, just freaking out. Like it was always so good. The actors they brought in were really good. And pardon me, when we were running and this guy came out, there was always our warrant officer that was with us, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was just a little guy, but he was strong as an ox, was at the front. And I remember him turning around and yelling frantically, "Come on, we got to do something. Get in there." And there's a lineup of us, right? Because you run in single file or 2 by 2, side by side. And I remember him just yelling at us, and I was near the front. I was first or second, kind of in the front of the line. And I remember everybody literally stopping running, turning 90 degrees, and running straight into the bush. And I paused. And that's very unusual for me, because usually I'm the first to stick my hand. Yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'm in. I'll do it, whatever the case is. Because I'm not a fearful person. I'm not afraid to be front and center of anything. But I'm not fearless. I do stop and think, and I pause when something doesn't feel right to me. People who are fearless don't have that hesitation. I do still have an element of fear in my body. And when he started yelling at us to get in there, something struck me wrong. And so this guy that came out with the makeup on is yelling at me, screaming, "Come on, you got to get in there. The people are dying, blah, blah, blah." And all of a sudden, I heard follow-up explosions in the bush. Everyone's gone. Everybody's already in the bush doing the medical things, right? Or trying to do medical things, pretending, because they don't actually have any medical stuff on them. And I remember hearing these, we call them RD sims, artillery simulators. It really looks like a spray paint can with a hose coming off the side, and you pull the cord, and then you throw it, and it whistles for a second, then it's a big boom, like a spray paint can blowing up in a fire. And it's to simulate artillery coming in on you as you're doing exercises. And just as the artillery things started going off, my warrant officer stopped yelling, I should say, and the actor stopped yelling. And my warrant officer looked at me and said, "Why didn't you run in?" And I just said, "I don't know. Something didn't feel right to me." And he says, "Well, you're the lucky one. Everybody else is dead. You're the only one left alive out of the whole section." That's what, in Canada, that's what they call the different battle groups of 13. They call them sections. And basically the premise was this. Nobody was supposed to run in. That was the exercise. The exercise was is how prepared are you when you're already intensely worked, when you are stressed because there's panic going on, everyone's yelling at you to do something. What's your response going to be? Are you still going to be cognitively aware enough to assess your situation and respond appropriately? In this particular case, everyone just responded because the guy in charge said, get in there. Whether it was the right or wrong thing. They were fearless. Why? Because their officer said, get in there. So they went in there. Well, they all died. And the artillery simulation was not to simulate artillery. What it was to simulate landmines. So basically what had happened, as we found out later on, because then the actor then said, yeah, there's another part of the story I didn't tell you in my panic as I was yelling at you to get in there and help everybody. If you would have just asked me what happened, which is what was supposed to happen in this exercise, I would have told you, yeah, we were walking through doing our patrol and 3 of us hit landmines. Well, that would have told everybody right up front, stop. EOD needs to get in here before we can get in and help anybody. But because everybody was fearless, they just ran into the bush and they all became casualties themselves. Right? So this is where panic doesn't help because it causes the fearless ones to surface and go, I will save the day. And they get in there and stupid things happen, right? Like become casualties themselves. And I have another story to go with this to show kind of how that ability to calm, slow things down, say, wait, what's not right here? What's actually going on? So courage is something that you need because once you know the facts, you need to be able to respond. You need to make a decision now that is going to benefit all involved, including yourself, obviously. Being the responder, you need to be able to make a decision that first is not going to compromise yourself, that you are then going to need to be a respondent, where somebody's going to have to be responding to you because of your inability to think things through. A certain element of being fearful is helpful. And this is where the definition for me of courage falls short. Because the definition of courage, and I got it here off to the side, says basically it's a state of mind, basically, that enables a person to face difficulty, to go through pain and in danger, things. But it says without fear, and that's false. Because courage doesn't mean you are fearless. It's fear is a healthy thing to have. That is what you said, Mark. Right? You need to have some element of fear in order to have courage. Because courage to me isn't a connotation of stupidity or being unthoughtful in a given situation. Courage to me means that you are being faithful to the facts that you have, being faithful to the process to ensure that you're not causing more damage, and being aware or cognizant of the perceived and the dangers that you are also unaware of. In other words, you're assuming some risk in having courage. So when I joined the military, I was aware of the risks, right? But I was also very aware of the fact that I was going to receive adequate training. I wasn't just going to be given a gun and a bunch of bullets and say, here, go shoot something, given a big grenade and say, here, make sure you use this properly. And you're going to go, how do you use it, I was aware that I was going to get good training, and I did. In Canada, we get amazing training in Canada because the groups are very small. Again, there's sections, 13 people. High level of training. I was scared. I mean, I never shot a machine gun at that point. I'd never thrown a hand grenade or shot a rocket or, anything like that. So, I mean, there's an element of fear, but I had the courage to pick it up. I mean, I had the courage to learn it. Obviously, I had the courage to sign up in the first place. But at the end of the day, even though I went through all that training, there was still an element of risk with which I need to maintain an element of courage to get through and to mitigate as much as possible. So let's bring this into the real world now. So a lot of our students here at Rise Above. So Rise Above, I don't know if you've noticed or not, our little logo up at the top here that's going above right here, up in this corner here, right? It says Rise Above, and then you notice the little words that come right there? See it? It says with hope and courage. But you never noticed that before. That is intentional. We say to the kids all the time, come with us to Rise Above. We will give you the hope. You must provide the courage. We'll help you develop the long-term forecast, which is hope. I have a hope for the future. Because that's why you have courage, because you believe in something yet to come. Listen to me now. This is important. This is where hope and courage comes from. If you don't have a belief in things yet to come, you will not have courage. If you don't believe in things yet to come, you will not have hope in or develop ideas for the future. Morgan, listen to me now. You have a passion. You know what you want. You just spent how many months in school? You know you can do it. You've proven it already. You haven't even begun to do hard things that you can't overcome. You've already done them. The hard is done. This is the easy part. Because now you get to go from the hard learning, okay, I got to learn how to use the machine gun. I got to learn how to throw the grenade and when not to throw the grenade and when to run into the forest and when not to run in the forest. You're at a point now, Morg, where you're moving into your passion, where now you get to be the one teaching others how to have hope and courage. You just haven't found your round peg and round hole yet. You're getting there. And like I said to you before, you always have a job here when you're in the area. I know it's a long drive from Antarctica to Michigan, but kiddo, when you arrive, you will be as close to fearless as you can be, because it'll just feel right. It is a state of mind that helps you get to a place where you can have hope for those things yet to come. Right? You just need to perceive it. You need to know that you have done the stage work for this. So there are six, well, there's probably more, but there are six types of courage that I want to explore with you. And we'll come back to this periodically, in and out of this whole idea of fearful, fearless, courage, careless type of thing, careful, careless type of thing as we go. So what... We'll get you there, Morg, I promise. What types of courage... So if I was to say to you, the first type of courage that I would identify is a physical courage. Andy. Hi, by the way. Is to push out a fart when you are fully aware of the inherent... especially when your wife's in the room. Yeesh, that's a dangerous thing. You really need to be fearless in that particular case, because you got to be stupid. Anyway, so different types of courage. So what, if I was to say to you, so let's do this right now. Let's talk about, I don't want to do that one. That was too easy. Let's talk about moral courage for a second, just a second. The idea of moral courage. Hey, Andy, what's going on, by the way, buddy? I'm glad you're here. Thank you for the resub. 13 freaking months. You're a rock star. I bet you know that already. And I just want to say, so I know you do this on your stream all the time. I'm going to come back to this moral courage thing again. And yes, Andy is alive. He survived the weekend. I know you do this to Soggy Waffles all the time on your stream. Oh, where is it at? Oh, here it is. Hang on. Hang on. This is either Andy on the toilet or Andy at the gym. You guys decide. Oh, I just pulled something on my back. Ow. Ow. I literally just pulled something on my back laughing at that. He's at the toilet at the gym. Oh, that's such a good picture. I love it. Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's a keeper. He pushed, he strained it. I wonder what it looked like. He blew a blood vessel in his eye there. That was so good. Oh man. Whew. And Annie gifted a sub to Don. Oh, thank you very much. Welcome to the gym there, Don. I just want to make sure you know Thursday is leg day. Please don't skip leg day. You have leg day emotes. Please spam those in chat so Don knows Thursday is leg day. But moral courage. So this is the one that we talk about most often. Now let's get back on subject now. Great show for that picture. It's a great show of courage. Moral courage is one of those things that I think we default to most often when we talk about the different types of courages, because it's the one that I think most people see it as the kind of the capture-all, because it's the one that really involves the shame aspect. It's when moral courage is the one that if you're letting it hang out there and you're putting your kind of your reputation on the line, is the way I see it, because it's where you're going to get the disapproval of others. This involves doing the right thing in a crowd. When everyone else is doing the cool thing, you decide to do the right thing. Right? And all you're at the party, all your friends, underage drinking, and you're like, nah, I'm going to pass. Oh, come on, chicken, blah, blah. That's the moral courage. This is the one you hope your kids have when they're going out with their friends. It's the one where, you really have a resolution to make sure your actions match your words, not just you just don't say the thing, you actually do the thing. And this is what blew people away with Veronica and I. So the church is often called hypocritical. Again, it's no mystery or nothing unknown about my connection to the church. And when Veronica and I told everybody, Veronica's my wife, for those who don't know, told everybody that we were going to sell everything, quit our jobs, and move to another country, everyone said we were crazy. And I half think that everybody thought we were not going to follow through on it. That people honestly thought that we were just, it's a phase, they're going through this, they just feel whatever, blah, blah, blah. But when we actually sold the house, sold all of our possessions except for the clothes on our back, basically, and moved to America, people were like, holy crap, they actually did it. It surprised the church, because I think it's unusual, because the church has a hard time with words and actions meeting. Do as I say, not as I do. You know what I mean? And that's why, Andy, this is your thing. You say on stream all the time, risk is an ordained minister, but you'd never know it, blah, 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 because you have a perception of what an ordained minister should look like. The reality is that's a false perception. Those who are portraying that image are as fake as a $3 bill. And I refuse to be fake. Yeah, Andy. Get him, Morg. The reality is, the last thing I ever want to be known as is fake. And anyone that knows me or has known me long enough over the years, through the different channels and whatnot, and even here, for the 5 or 6 that show up every so often. According to Andy, it's fake. It's plastic, according to Andy. My hair's always like... I was supposed to go for a haircut today. The wife canceled it. I'm not happy. But for me, morally, the last thing that I ever want to be known as is that guy that says that thing but then does the other thing, you know? I'd rather you all know me as the broken sinner who absolutely does stupid stuff sometimes. You know, who absolutely lives life to its fullest but wants the best for everybody. You know, and that's we had this conversation about my kids. My kids know there isn't much I won't do. You know, I will stand up to anybody. Like it's a thing. You know, I am not I'm not fearless, but I'm not a fearful person either. You know what I mean? If I need to stand into a space that nobody else is willing to stand into, I will definitely stand in that space if it's warranted for a person. Right? Sometimes the weak need propping up, and I will definitely be that guy. You know, that the phrase I use most often is, "I will fall on a sword for you, Morg." Right? Because it's not about who you claim to be when you talk about moral courage. You need to be an example for your children and for others. Right? You reveal who you are, and this is why I say to you on stream, Andy, when you make the kind of pastor, yeah, you wouldn't know it, pastor, whatever the case is. I want you to know who I really am. Andy, when you meet me, you're not going to see any different Risk Immersed than what you get on stream. I am who I am, period. There's no facade here. I'm not putting on a show. I am as passionate in real life as I am on this bloody stream. So moral courage to me is the one that I tend to focus on. It's the one that I think a lot of people think of when they think of courage in a lot of different ways. But what other types of courage do you guys think exist? So there are 8 that I've kind of identified in research papers and stuff that I've read. There's around that 6 to 8 people. Some of them are kind of similar, so 6 to 8 is really what we're talking about. I'll give you a second. And as you're thinking about the different types of courage and kind of how you would define those things, and if there's nothing there, I'll get through them. Don't worry. I'll give you another example, and I've talked about this one before on stream as well. I think I have, anyways. So many conversations. One time when my son was he was in his senior year of high school, we drove from Michigan to Indiana, which is south of Michigan. And we were driving at highway speeds, 70, 80 miles an hour. What's that, 135, 140 kilometers an hour for you EU folks. And on our way down, one car ahead of us was a motorcycle. And we were just coming into some construction, and a car merged into the construction, like the lanes, how they come together is 2 lanes wide. And a car cut across, and when he cut across, he didn't see the motorcycle. And he pushed the motorcycle out of the lane and into those big orange traffic cones. And the bicycle handlebars hit the traffic cone, spun the guy. He tried to save it, couldn't save it, and actually ended up losing control of the bike. Well, the guy was in jeans, a T-shirt, no helmet, because in Michigan, in Indiana, there's no helmet laws. You don't have to wear a helmet. Don, what the heck are you speaking? This isn't Andy's stream, buddy. We speak English. I'm just kidding. Andy has text-to-speech to switch it over. Here, let's do this. Here, I got you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to find out. That's food. We're talking about food. What food are we talking about? Don, if that is your real name. Where is... Look, you're getting me off track. Oh, you're having breakfast and you're having sandwiches. Yeah. He says it's breakfast time, man. He's having sandwiches. I got you, Don. I got you. So he's just driving down the road. He loses control of his bike. No helmet. The guy bails hard. He slides at least 80 feet in a t-shirt and jeans, no helmet. Bike's flipping end over end. That car keeps driving. I don't think he knew he even did what he did. And so we all slam on our brakes. I get out of my car. Guy gets out of his truck in front of me because it was kind of like a half-ton, kind of flatbeddy type truck in front of me. Because we're all worried this guy's going to roll into oncoming traffic. We're going to run him over. Again, being a paramedic in my former life, I get out right away. There's already two people there kind of beside him, and he's kind of like writhing and moaning because he's kind of unconscious, semi-conscious. Skull fractures, clearly you can see issues with his face. And so this is the courage part now. The courage isn't getting out of your vehicle and running up to a guy who's just slid 80 feet on asphalt because, after an accident. The courage piece is this next part. As I'm sitting there assessing this guy, looking at his injuries, some lady comes running up behind us, screaming at the top of her lungs, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? You got to do this. You got to. And that is not courage. That's fear, panic, sheer panic in this woman's voice. Because she has no training, has no idea what she's doing, and she thinks, for whatever reason, the world is ending. I mean, for this guy, it could very well be. But she's injecting her fear into a situation that does not need any more fear. Courage, right? This is one of the next courages I want to talk about, which is, right? And Morg, you talked about physical courage is what I believe we're talking about there, but I want to work through that with you because I believe my mother-in-law Veronica's mom went through this exact same thing, exact same scenario you're talking about. But this lady had emotional courage where she came in and, or lack of emotional courage. She came in and just let it all go bleh, all over the place. And because of a lack of emotional courage, her emotions just raged to a point where I just had to tell her, get the frick out of here. Like you are no help to this situation. The last thing I need right now is somebody panicking while I'm trying to help make sure this guy is breathing. So emotional courage is one where you really you have to be able to control your full spectrum of emotions, given a normal high emotion situation. To have emotional courage means you have the ability to not suppress, but control, at least for a moment, your emotions so that you can get through the pain, the trauma, whatever the thing is in front of you. And you will note that I said for a moment, because long-term suppression of your emotions leads to a severe emotional impairment issues. And Morg, you may or may not know anything about this. I don't know if you took any of these classes in your speech therapy stuff, but it's emotional courage is purely a momentary thing where I can suppress my emotions for a moment so that I can think clearly about the things I need to do to be courageous and to put my training and my know-how or my ability, whether it be my strength, my big hands, whatever the thing is, into play. Right? Because if again, use the military as an example. If I'm an emotional wreck in the military and the proverbial crap's hitting the fan, the last thing I'll be able to do is to get up and to properly aim my rifle and to defend myself and my mates with firepower or some maneuver that's effective if I'm an emotional wreck. Right? Race car drivers, perfect example of people who are great at controlling their emotions. Talk about high stress environments, fast paced. If you have emotion outside of adrenaline in those situations, you're prone to making huge mistakes. So Morg, let's get to yours. Physical courage. So physical courage is one of those things where I watched Morgan, I'm sure you did too. I watched my mother-in-law, whom I loved dearly, battle breast cancer. And unfortunately, she lost that battle simply because she didn't seek treatment. She relied on her faith to win that battle. And I'm just going to say flatly, I disagreed with her on it entirely. I think she should have sought medical treatment, but I honored and respected her belief. But for her, she had an immense amount of physical and spiritual courage in that moment. Her physical courage was she was suffering pain like nothing. I've seen men in pain. I mean, with compound fractures in their legs, broken orbital bones, extruded eyeballs, avulsions on their fingers where their skin is peeled back. Just horrible, horrible things. And I have seen grown men in agony. But to see what my mother-in-law went through and the physical courage that this woman went through agony, and I saw her wince once where she just went, and she would always rebuke it. And this woman, to the moment she gasped her last, had physical courage like I'd never seen somebody have. The bravery, as it is defined, to accept grave bodily harm. The courage to step into a place where you are willing to accept pain to the point of death is really what physical courage is. And for her, it really, she had a tremendous amount of resiliency is the best way I can say it. Physical courage is a resiliency. She displayed it to no end. And she had a great awareness of what was happening. She knew what her body was doing. She knew what she was going through. She knew what the consequences were if there was not some form of healing that took place. Yeah, Morg, it is crazy. Hey, Rabbi, what's going on, buddy? And Rabbi, you're always welcome to insert your 2 cents, man. As long as it's respectful like everybody else, we're good. You always have been. Yeah, but, Morg, she didn't, and I hear people say it all the time, the treatment sometimes is worse than the stinking cancer itself. And it is crazy. Like the radiation burn, yeah, you said radiation burns the whole 9 yards. It's nuts what people go through to overcome this disease. And that takes, there is fear involved. Absolutely. The moment you know what's going on and you understand the steps and the processes involved, yeah, and honestly, Morg, for Sue was her name. For Sue, one of the biggest reasons for her to just say, you know what, I'm just going to depend on my faith for healing here, was the fact that she knew she'd watched others go through cancer treatment. And she just said, I just don't want that. She was more willing to have the cancer side effects than the treatment side effects. So what your mom went through is no small feat by any stretch of the imagination. And like I said, my Sue believed in that so much that she chose not to go through the treatment. So, yeah, and especially you were 15. So how did that affect you? Because at that point you have to have, as a 15-year-old, you have to have some belief, some courage to power through this idea of, I believe my mom is going to be okay. And some of that could be naivety, the idea that you just didn't know the depth of what was happening, the severity of what was happening, and you were just, because you didn't know. You know? So I gotta get a drink here. Yeah. And you know that's because, I think you probably remember that, and this is me speculating, but because eating is such an integral part of our lives. It's our family, it's our social event as a family. It's most often where we come together. And that impacted her ability to do that with you, probably, and that's why it sticks in your memory so much. My opinion. Mm. My mom was told she had a young lung condition called. Oh, I don't think I've ever heard of that, Andy. Hospital for 4 months, they decided to do another test. Then it was found to have lung cancer. That was on a Tuesday. Really? I didn't know that, Andy. And you were how old, you said? 14 when that happened? Wow. So this is the question then. How does that affect emotional courage? Because, I mean, you guys both went through, Morgan, Andy, you guys both went through something pretty traumatic, pretty young. I mean, I counted a blessing that all of my traumatic life events have happened as an adult. At an age where at least I believe, I've been able to rationalize logically with my adult understanding of things. Because at 14, 15, I mean, you know what's going on, but you still have a depth of naivety where you truly don't comprehend the where and when of how of what just happened. Obviously, there's read your message. Damn it! It was something you believe it was something you could control, so that's when kind of fell into a. So you're saying you could control the eating disorder, Morg? No, before that. But I read that. Chemo side effects was nothing like I've ever seen. For some reason, I specifically remember the side effects. That was the sores in my mouth. So that's when I kind of felt, oh, I see. So are you connecting the sores in the mouth with an eating disorder? Okay, I'm following you. Yeah. So your eating disorder developed around that time. So what's the connection then? Because I don't want to read into that, because that's a big deal. Gotcha. So I'm going to make a comparison. It could be totally wrong, Morg, but so correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of our students, and I'm not saying you're one of our students, but the emotional connection to things. A lot of our students come to us having gone through extremely traumatic things. And Rabbi, you probably experienced this as well in your line of work. A lot of our kids come to us having experienced extremely traumatic things, and so their whole lives are literally out of control, and they don't, or they lack the ability to some degree to make good decisions. It's not that they don't want to make good decisions; they emotionally can't make good decisions. They're not in a spot where they can know what's right to do, but they can't connect it with the physical how to do it. And even if they have the desire, they just can't cross that line for some reason. And even though you may have known that I need to eat, I need to not eat so much, or I need to eat more, or whatever the thing was, or I need to eat healthier, your emotions kind of disconnected you from the ability to know and to do, and that's where a lot of the trauma-informed training that we go through really helps us to help kids reconnect those dots to where a place where they've been able to, and again, those micro adjustments. It's not big whole steps. Some kids it is, but most cases it's just little things. And Rabbi, you're exactly right. That eating disorder is a form of self-harm, right? Yeah. And that's why you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly why we have a counselor in house, because we know that you have to slow things down enough that and have a conversation where you're walking somebody through not just what's going on, but what happened. People don't. This is my big with nonprofits. A lot of nonprofits treat results. So the result of the trauma is you are homeless. The result of the trauma is you don't have enough to eat. The result of the trauma is you're angry. The result of the trauma is blah, 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 whatever. And they treat that thing, the result. They never go back and say, well, I wonder what the trauma was. Is there anything we can do to help you understand how that affected you? Because I'll be honest, that is where, yes, Rabbi, it drives me bonkers. Getting back to the root cause is where true healing happens. If all I ever do is wipe the blood off the cut and stick a Band-Aid on it, and I don't ever ask the question, well, where'd the cut come from? How do we prevent that cut in the future? We never truly understand what the hell is going on. For all you know, that person cut themselves. And you're like, well, gee whiz, I hope that doesn't happen again. Hey, let me stick a Band-Aid on that, give you some Neosporin there, clean that up for you. And Morg, gets back to, what you and I have believed all along. You got to just love these kids. You got to get them to a place where they feel beyond safe. You got to get people, not just kids, people to a place where they feel secure, that they're not going to be judged. And again, this is where the courage comes. I have people say to me all the time, Neil, I've told you things I've never told anybody else. And a lot of that comes from the idea that I hope that people think they can trust me. Yeah, don't even get me started, Rabbi. So, and that's, Morg, this gets back to what I was saying early on. You're good. You've done the hard bits already. The next steps for you, there's going to be a little bump when you get the new job and you kind of find your place and blah, blah, blah. You put what you've learned into practice and that, but it's fun. That's the easy part. That's when you get to have your passion. And like you said, when COVID first hit and you had your placement, you had to leave those kids, you were like, I remember you saying in stream one time, it's killing you that you just want to call them up and give them a hug or whatever the case is. Pardon me. Yes. That's the thing. That's where work is not work anymore. That's the thing we're talking about. So we talked about spiritual courage. We talked about physical courage. Yes, it is definitely the juice. Talked about social courage, which, mostly is a teenager thing, but adults fall into it too. And it's funny, I just had this conversation this morning about money, because money, is evil. It's not evil, I'm just playing. That's kind of like the fun thing to say. Money and me are dangerous. I mean, it is, though. So I have an opportunity coming up in my life in the next year where point blank, I'm going to become a very wealthy person overnight. My father owns a company that I've talked about before, I think. And he wants to retire and he wants me to take over. And it will literally turn me into a millionaire overnight. Let me tell you that thought scares the hell out of me. Because money is a powerful tool. It can be used in a lot of good ways. But to go from the executive director of a nonprofit, which I will always be, I'm not leaving Rise Above even if I take over this business. The business can be run remotely. I don't need to be an hour away in my dad's house to run the business. But to go from making, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year to suddenly making $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year overnight is not good for me. I won't do it. I've already set up a plan in place. I met with lawyers last week, and I refuse to go from being who I am to something else. And I'll tell you why. One, I know my own limitations, and I will waste money. Point blank. I am good with money, but when it's my money, I'm a waster. I will put it into things that are stupid. It's a matter of fact. And when I watch the wealthy people around me, I run a nonprofit, so I'm always around very wealthy people in this community. And Rabbi, you're probably in the same boat. You meet with wealthy people all the time because you're a fundraiser. I watch these people go to the country club because I got to have dinner with these people, and they've got to go to specific places. They won't go to McDonald's to meet with you. They won't go to the coffee shop to meet with you. They got to go. Let's go do lunch at Veritas, which is the big fancy, restaurant in town. You spend $100 a plate type. Why are we spending $100? How about instead we go to McDonald's? We'll spend $20 in the meal. You give me a check for $80, and I will go take these kids on a trip. There's nothing wrong with going out to eat. I love McDonald's fries. There is nothing wrong with having nice things. But I have a problem with wasting money. Can I make a recommendation for you? You should build a team of a lawyer, an accountant, and a wealth manager to structure your pay and revenues. Yes, and that's exactly, Rabbi, that is exactly what we're doing. So right now the business is structured that literally all the money goes right to my dad. And then he does with it whatever he wants. He just buys a bunch of toys, to be honest with you. For me, the money is now going to stay within the business. It will be controlled by the accountant and our wealth manager. And we're going to build a proper retirement plan for my wife and I. And I'll take a small income for running the business, similar to the salary I have now. And the rest annually, that's exactly what we're doing, Rabbi. We are starting a trust in Canada. We're going to turn Rise Above into a multinational nonprofit so we can transfer money. We can donate to Rise Above in Canada. We're figuring all the legalities of that out now. So Rise Above is going to be funded by this business to some degree. I don't know that it'll be completely funded by it, but Rise Above UK, Maine. Andy, it's a thing, but I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a thing. I plan on, if we can do this right, this could be huge. Yeah, Morgan, I'm telling you, it's going to be interesting. But here's the thing. So we have to back up a step now to understand why does Neil feel this way? So we're on the topic of courage, right? Listen to my story again. You've heard it. Most of you have heard it. I grew up poor, very poor. Yeah, I'd love for you. Andy, you don't know how much I think about that. More than once, let me put it that way. Anyways, I grew up poor. I'm no stranger to going without. It's okay. It's a fact of life. I'm not the only one. It's not a big deal. Holy crap, my light just suddenly went, meh. How the hell does that even happen? Let me fix my light. Holy crap. Ow, my eyes. I'm freaking blind. I don't even know how the hell that happened. So as I grew up poor, so I'm used to going without. And so now if I get into a situation, oh my God, I can't even see out of my eyes now. If I get into a situation where suddenly I have wealth that is, at least in my eyes, more than I can spend. Like, that's a lot of freaking money, man. It would be unhealthy for me because that's not who I am. I guarantee you, I would be broke before I was wealthy in that situation. I don't know how to live that way. And Rabbi, I see your comment. I'm going to come back to it in a second. I just want to finish this thought. So courage for me, I am mustering up the courage to do this because I really want to be well off. I really want to be in a spot in my life where I don't have to worry about money anymore. I have gone without for so long that I have convinced myself that I deserve this. So I'm having to be very careful, and I've decided to do my best to give as much of this money away as I can. I refuse to be wealthy. It's the best way I can say it, at least from a North American perspective. Can I say that I'm proud of you? I know that's the weirdest things about it. Nation's building a system that reinforces your values, supports your family. Respect, Rabbi. Thank you, brother. Just know that this is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Because I want to give my kids good things. You know, initially the thought in my mind was, I can't wait. I want to buy my kids all new cars. You know, I want to do great for my kid. I want to do all the things I've never been able to do for my kid. I'd love to pay off their mortgages, you know. I don't know that would be healthy for me to do that for them, though. I want them to learn how to manage money. And that is, Rabbi, a lot of people, because people just don't know how to, if you've never had a lot of money, you don't know how to manage it. And I've never had a lot of money, even at Rise Above. We do well, but we don't have millions of dollars in our bank. I will say this, though, and I don't know how much of this I can show on stream, but see if I can find it. Oh, here it is here. It's going to flip on me. Let me see if I can get it to... No, it's going to want to flip. See, it's sideways. But my point is, look at the dollars on that check. This is a check that came in today. That's the 150,000. Focus, dang it. There it is. This check came in today, $150,000. That's the biggest donation we've ever gotten. Yeah, that's the 150,000 we talked about a few weeks ago. Finally arrived. Sorry. You know, and I mean, I can live with that. That's same day windfall. Yeah, that's awesome. That is cool, Rabbi. You know, but Andy, I mean, you talk about this idea of chopping onions. It is hard. Because, I mean, you don't have kids yet. When you have kids, Well, think about the dog. How much do you love that dog? Neville, you love that dog to death. If that dog was hurt, it would devastate you. You want nothing but the best for that dog. I can see it in your eyes when you pick him up on your stream. You love that dog. Yeah, I know. Now wait till you have kids, man. And this is where I'm at. I'm like, okay, I have an opportunity coming up where I can give my kids a lot of nice things to make their lives good and to show them how much dad loves them. Right? But this is where I've landed. So I thought, okay, I can't give them these things, but maybe I can teach them something. So the first thing my oldest son said was, oh, so that means I get to take over the business one day? And I said, yep. And I know right away his head's clicking. And he's thinking, oh, I'm gonna be filthy stinking rich one day. And he's gonna have a nice salary. He's not gonna go hungry. But he doesn't know that I'm gonna CS:GO skins. Woo! I hooked him and Liam up last night, Andy, for CS:GO. Liam was all excited. But I'm gonna structure the business in such a way that salaries will be capped based on inflation, and that the company will have to donate a certain percentage of its revenue annually, regardless, based on profits. So he's never going to achieve what he thinks he's going to achieve. But what he's going to be able to do is he will be, as the owner, he will be the board chair of the foundation that Rabbi and I were talking about a second ago. Where he will have the opportunity to then understand what it's like to bless others and to be in a situation where he can help whoever he decides to help. I don't care. As long as he gives the money away. The lesson I'm going to teach my boys is how to bless others, essentially. I want them to be unselfish, because I think selfishness is one of the biggest issues in culture today. And that's my biggest fear, is that my desire to be wealthy will result in my selfishness. So my goal is to do everything I can to mitigate that. And I say that all to say it has taken a tremendous amount of courage on my part. And I haven't arrived yet. I'm just being honest with you, being transparent. I haven't fully arrived yet. I keep talking myself out of doing it. I have resigned to the fact that I'm going to give a certain amount away. I am going to bless people. This I know. What I haven't really fully convinced myself of is to give 90% of it away instead of just 20% or 30% or 50%. I keep thinking, wow, but a nice boat wouldn't be too bad. Or maybe, maybe a little cottage, or maybe I'll go buy 100 acres of land over here so I can, go hike or camp or go deer hunting or. So I'm convincing myself that maybe I need this. Maybe I need this. Maybe I need. You see what I'm doing? Because I don't have the courage yet. I haven't crossed the finish line on this one yet. So listen, you're all my accountability partner on this one. When we get to a point where I arrive with this stupid business thing, I want you guys to hold me accountable. Whether it's weekly, monthly, whatever the case is, I want you privately to pull me aside and say, who'd you give to this month? I want you to make sure that I'm doing what I say I'm doing. That makes sense? So I'm trying to roger that. Awesome. I'm just going to look at my filters for a second here because I think my filter is a bit off after the light switched. Stupid thing. I think that's just my light. Hey, Albert, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Let me just fiddle with my lights for a sec. Give me a sec. There we go. Oh, I'm doing good. Doing good. Thanks for coming by. I'm just trying to figure out what the heck's going on with my green screen here. Starting to mess with my settings. There we go. I hope. So let's talk about the different types of courage here. We got a few more to go before we get out of this. So we have intellectual courage. This speaks to the willingness to engage in challenging ideas. This is the one that we face a lot here at Rise Above. Where, so we talk a lot about trust, obedience, challenge, change, growth. Andy, this goes back to your early days here on the old Risk Immerse channel. This is where we really, once a kid trusts us enough to listen to us, it's the challenge part intellectually where we say to them, is that really what you believe? Or is that really what you think you're capable of? It's that intellectual challenge. That's, because they just know what they know, and this is what I do. This is who I've always been. If you can make it so your monitor isn't on a bright white screen, yeah, I can do that. There. Our kids have a hard time grasping that they're capable of. They just don't have I can do that? That idea of, oh, I never thought of it, And so, yeah, fixed. Just turn the big white screen off. A lot of these students are fearful of change. And that's just because every time something new comes in, either they get taken advantage of, somebody lies to me, somebody steals from me, any number of things, right? And for our kids, that's why we say we provide the hope, they provide the courage, is because they don't think that they can do it. And that's the intellectual courage. It means that they have to discern the difference between someone telling the truth and someone telling a lie. Right? This is a huge parenting issue because a lot of these kids' parents lie through their freaking teeth. So let's talk about parents. So this, I'm labeling this parenting, but this can be, sorry, the plosives are, hey TX, what's going on, buddy? But this can be for supervisors, for managers, for business owners, for brothers and sisters. This can be anything. Depends what role you play in the community that you serve, right? So this is a study back from 2005 that I'm referencing, and it basically identifies three themes. I said two, but there's three themes in the developmental process. So the developmental process or the learning process, again, depending on what we're doing, can take place we talk about the developmental process of kids, of a new employee, of a new relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, that are living together for the first time. Yeah, no problem, Andy. Take it easy, buddy. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the gift of subs, and thanks for the resub today, man. Love you, bro. Seriously, you're a freaking legend. So these are the parenting tips, but just overall leadership tips that this talks about. The first one that I want to focus on is this idea of building confidence and self-trust in the people that you're talking to. So whether it's an employee, a child, a friend, an audience, I got to bring you to a place where you can have enough confidence in your ability to ask a question regardless in the stream. Like that, your ability to open up so that I can explore with you is huge. And that's why I put it right in the stream title. When we start the stream, come explore with me. I want you to be vulnerable with me, because if you know anything about me, I'm absolutely vulnerable. I am not shy about anything. Being angry on stream, crying on stream, whatever needs to be done on stream, will be done on stream. Absolutely. The other thing that goes along with this is I have to convince you that doing so has value to you. That having this conversation is worth it. Does that make sense? That sharing with me, that talking through this with me, that being vulnerable will have some sort of beneficial outcome. If not for you, at least for somebody else. In my being vulnerable, if I don't gain anything, at least maybe say TX will gain something. So I'm willing to do it so I can help Andy be better. That's like, oh, my son's texting me. That's like a firefighter. As a firefighter, I'm willing to risk jumping into a burning building and using my skills and abilities in my experience to help that person in there that's suffering, even though I myself might get hurt in the process. I'm willing to trade so that they might get better. Does that analogy work for you? Does that make sense? So you have to perceive, if I'm going to be vulnerable, if I'm going to trust you with this information, the person receiving the information has to, you've got to believe that it has, person giving the information, I apologize, has to believe that it's worth giving. True, it does. It can be tough to get people to know it's okay to talk about things. Yeah. And that's one of the hardest jobs as a counselor. So Andy's talking about his wife being a counselor. And Morg, you know this well as a speech therapist. One of the first things, because people with speech impediments particularly are very emotionally aware of their speech impediment. And they're used, especially little kids, are used to being ridiculed or embarrassed by it. Little Susie's got a lisp, and so, Jimmy's always bugging her about her lisp, and so she hides. She doesn't talk. Or she talks only in ways that she feels comfortable talking, and to people she feels comfortable talking to. So as a new therapist, you've got to bring her along to a place where she knows that what you're doing is safe. And in doing so, this is the third one, this is you helping to manage her fear about that thing. So even as the person giving the care, you've got to manage your own fear in this situation. And this gets back to this idea of being fearful or being fearless. What are you saying to it? Does basically, I'll risk something for you to see that is okay for you to, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So building confidence and self-trust. This is, again, for your kids or for your employees or for your students or for your spouse. Perceiving the worthiness of the purpose of what you're trying to achieve. Listen, the reason why we're doing this is because I'm trying to help you be a better blah, right? Or whatever the thing is. And the idea, the end goal here is to help that person manage fear about whatever that thing is. Manage the fear of talking publicly, maybe. because I have a lisp or a speech impediment of some sort. And then so those are the three main. Then there's 4 others that we can add from this 2005 study. When you build confidence in somebody, when you help them understand the value in overcoming it, in managing the fear, you then empower that person. It is absolutely fun. So when you teach somebody to be confident in their speech, you empower them to make better decisions. I'm sure you've worked through this, and if you haven't, this is great. When you make somebody more confident, you make them bolder in their decision making, more willing to go out in public places and to do public things and to, have conversations they never would have had before. And that's the second part of this. These kind of go together. That's why I said there's kind of 4 things. You create intention and a willingness to do things, a willingness to action, a call to action. This guy is the term he uses, willing action. When you embolden somebody, you help somebody set goals, intentionality. I'm going to do this to get this. I'm going to do this to do that, right? One of our neighbor kids has a speech impediment. We would see him around, but he would never want to play with our other kids. He would just play on his own. I started walking by and talking with him on the way to the park with my kids, little by little over the last 6 months. As he noticed I could understand him and he didn't laugh or judge, the kids started coming up to play with other kids. Yeah, but Albert, that's exactly what your guys are doing. You're showing that you're being non-judgmental. You're building confidence in him. And you're helping that student manage his fear, helping that kid to manage his fear about that thing that he's struggling with, right? Hey, Jamie, what's up, buddy? So then once you do those things, you also, because this person is now being open and being intentional, Jamie's following you everywhere. Who was I following yesterday? I was following somebody, one of the folks from Stream to Stream yesterday. So once you get somebody to a point where they trust you and they believe in the purpose and they're managing their fear and they actually start doing things that they never did before, like this kid, Albert, now that he's actually playing with other kids, he'll do things everywhere that he never used to do. He'll then look for opportunities to practice. And he'll make mistakes, or she'll make mistakes. I'm not sure. Was it a little boy? See him, yeah. He'll see opportunities now to do things he never would do before. It could be even playing with cousins and nieces and nephews that would come to the house. He maybe would do the same thing there. Now maybe he's playing with them and doing more things. That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Him talking will help him become a better talker. It will help his speech. And more, this is better than anybody. The more you do it, the better you become. Which ultimately, and all of this leads to, right? One thing. It ensures a sense of belonging and self-worth. Because if you think you're broken, if something about you is wrong, I don't look a certain way, I don't feel a certain way, I don't sound a certain way, whatever the thing is, your self-value, courage, Jamie, the value of courage and what it means, your value or your self-worth, what you perceive yourself to be or able to be, will be either low or high. This is something early on in my life I struggled with and I fought hard against because I had everybody telling me I was worthless. And you guys have heard me tell me the story of my 8th grade teacher who blatantly told me, You are nothing. You will be nothing. Put blatantly, plainly, courage is the ability to make a decision or to take an action. If you don't have courage, you will stand still. Nothing will change. You have to be willing to do the hard things. This is where we started now, right? However, being that my first language was not English, I've always felt like I was being judged from my accent when I was a kid, so I felt for this kid. I saw a bit of me in him. Yeah, absolutely. My whole family speaks with a not my whole, the vast majority of my family speaks with a very heavy accent. Very heavy European accent. Thanks, UTX. You know what I mean? So, I mean, Albert, I completely get that. My wife still makes fun of me that when I go home, she goes, "Since when do you have an accent?" Because I start speaking with a Portuguese accent. But one of the things that people don't understand, and while you may not recognize it or realize it, is that the lack of courage is paralyzing. It will literally freeze you in your tracks. And I'm sure you all can think of an instance or an example of how fear has paralyzed you or somebody you know. You know, I always think of mass shootings, and this is a horrible thing to think of, but I always ask myself the question, there was 200 people there and one person with a gun. He's going to shoot everybody anyways. Why aren't we doing something? And this isn't a take one for the team comment. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Because I've been in situations where guns were involved. I can give you an example from my personal experience. This isn't training, real life. Where at a young age, I had a responsibility for going and getting a gun off of somebody who had a gun. And not everybody is wired for that. And I'm not saying that everybody in this room is meant that when there's a violent situation that you're supposed to run into the violence to help quell it in some way. You have to have the training, for one. Otherwise, the risk far outweighs the reward. But when hundreds are involved, there is somebody in the room trained. There is somebody in the room qualified. The problem is fear, the lack of courage to use what they know. So now translate this to the real world. That happens every day. Here's one that, this is real. You're in the grocery line. The person in front of you or the person behind you is clearly not in a good place financially. But there's a reality. You're not in a good place financially either. You're better off than they are, but you're still not wealthy. Do you A, check out with your groceries and go home and think, man, I hope I never get to that level of poverty? Or do you B, say to the cashier, can you add another $20 to my bill and take it off of whatever they're checking out with? That's scary. $20 is a lot of money. And you have to decide, is it really that dangerous for me to go without that $20? What would I sacrifice to give up that $20? Now, the funny thing to me is, I mean, I have this conversation with people all the time about how do I separate you from your money, from my donors. I have to convince them of the value of Rise Above and why they should donate to our organization. For them, $20 is like, pennies. But the conversation is no different. They fear being without just as much as you do. They all fear it because it's a facade. And that's what I was talking about earlier about the wealth thing. It is, money breeds fake. Because as soon as you have money, you automatically will start to live beyond your means, more so than before you had money. It's a fact of life. It's what people do. It is the very rare exception. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to want to give, morgue. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to say, you know what, I am willing to sacrifice my comfort for another. And I think that one is tough. So again, I'm not challenging you to do that. I'm not challenging you to go to the grocery store today and, well, maybe I am. Maybe I am saying, my mother-in-law, Sue, before she passed away, had a thing that she would do every year. And she was okay financially. She wasn't wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but she was okay. And every year she would give Veronica and I $10,000. You think, holy crap, $10,000. It wasn't always that much. It started off, she would give us $1,000. But everyone who has the courage and mindset to do something like that, and it's not to have courage comes, and I mean, that's we were talking about all the different forms of courage. Depends where you are, right? Depends what your own physical, emotional, and spiritual state is, and any number of things. Yeah, that's where we were talking about the 6 different stages or types of courage earlier. But what she would do is she would give us $1,000, say, and she would say, 10% is for you, 90% you have to give away. And but the thing was, she never asked what'd you do with the money. She never asked, what did the people do with the money? She just gave you the $1,000. And the expectation was you were going to take that money and you were going to bless somebody else with it. Right? The blessing is, hey, I have $1,000. Wow, awesome. So she would say you and Veronica go out for dinner with the $100. And then the rest you had to do something with. So then we had to actively find ways to be generous to other people. And yeah, no problem. Have a good one, TX. Appreciate you being here and offering the input that you did. Very much appreciated, bro. Can I tell you that was the hardest thing to learn, was to give away $900? That was tough. And it was $900, let alone thousands and thousands. The reality was we needed the $1,000. Whether put tires in the car, feed, diapers for the kids, because we had kids at the time, young babies at the time. We could have used the $1,000. And that was what Sue was up to. She was like, you have a choice to make. You can live for yourself, or you can live with the idea, with the courage to know that you're helping others. And it was just, it's just tremendous life lesson that we've done our best to hand down to our kids. And I think that's what that's what I love about this format of this stream is that you guys don't understand that you being here is a blessing to me and to the organization. Whether it's through your donations, your subscriptions, your banter back and forth. We have fun. It is what it is. Sometimes we're serious. Like today was mostly serious. But at the end of the day, this is a mental exercise for me. You know, you guys challenge what I think I know. You rebuke me if I say something that's off or wrong, and I'm okay. That's awesome. I love that. I love accountability. Always have. And the final thing you do is you affirm me. You give me the ability to say, okay, I actually make sense sometimes. What I know and believe actually means something and has value to somebody. And therefore, I'll repeat that to somebody else in some form. But does that make sense today? Does that make sense? Does talking about courage mean something? Positive words of affirmation are huge, Mark. Even for old Risky. You need to know that you're doing things right sometimes, you know? Even in the midst of brokenness, sometimes you just need to be told it's going to be okay. Not always. Thank you. I appreciate that, though. I want to be known as someone who tries. You know, and that's kind of my prayer for all of you as well, as I want you to be somebody who at least tries. If not for somebody else, at least for yourself. Okay, not always. Thank you. But most of the time, yeah. One thing I don't want you to hear me say is that this is easy. I want to leave you with the fact that you are going to struggle. There are days when you feel like you want to give up or that you want to quit. You know, that you feel like no one's listening or that no one cares. You know, I had the feeling myself, this is a personal statement now. I had the feeling myself the other day of being alone or being lonely. That as a nonprofit, somebody who has to raise money like I do, I feel like a pariah in some way. Somebody who is like, oh, the leper's coming to beg for money, you know. And I don't, that's why I don't ever ask for money. I want to convince people of the amazing kids that we serve, and I want them to feel compelled to give on their own. Like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. How do I help these kids? Because again, that idea of, oh, the leper's coming in, that really takes a hit at my self-worth. It makes me feel somewhat, and that's not what we are. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is amazing. It has the power of risk compels you. That's awesome. Albert, I care. Sometimes I feel like I'm all alone and caring, or I feel like trying to force the cruel world to be nicer. Yeah. What's up, Bushman? Thanks for tuning in, buddy. Yeah, Albert, that's a big part of it. Yeah, you know, and that's what, you know, that was the whole design of this stream, Albert. It was a place, it was a safe place for us to come to kind of like build each other up, have fun. Yeah, sounds kind of corny, Mark. No. But I mean, seriously though, to come here and to kind of like hash out the difficult questions, be real, dig deep. Because the whole shallow thing is kind of like, anybody can be shallow. People are shallow all the time. You know, this. That whole surface, that's the joke I was making about the rich people earlier. They're all fake. There's very few genuine people who are independently wealthy. You know what I mean? Because they're all in a bigger mask than any churchgoer you're ever going to meet. So for me, that idea of feeling lonely it's a hard one, and that gets back to the whole why I want to turn this business that my dad is doing into a foundation. So that, whoever takes over Rise Above from me one day doesn't have to have that same feeling. So, any questions on that? Anything else you want to go deeper into on that? So, I don't want you to be fearful, but I also don't want you to be fearless. Because remember, fearless breeds carelessness, right? I want you to be thoughtful in your process when you have courage, when you step into that thing, when you see the house. I want you to think before you run in there. Am I qualified to do this? Is the trade for my help here? It's not necessarily a lukewarm on fire type question or cold question. It's a I want you to be real with yourself question. Is this really who I am, or is there somebody more qualified? There will be instances when you absolutely need to run to that house because there ain't nobody coming for miles. And it's you do something or nothing gets done, and there's a tragedy. And you just got to do it. And we can all point to times in our lives when it was either us or nobody. So you just got to do it. That's, and that is a crappy place to be in. That's when big, hairy monsters come out of places that you just never anticipated. Not that being hairy means you're a monster, but I think you get my point. Yeah, I think it's a neat subject, courage. I don't think it's something that we think about often enough, but yet it has a profound impact on literally our everyday. If you do not have courage, you will not be as successful as you could be. Andy's definitely not a monster. He kind of looks like one, but he's not a monster. He's decent. But yeah, if you live in fear, you will underachieve always. Nine times out of 10, what you tell, well, I would say 100% of the time, what you tell yourself is going to be far worse than what anybody else is going to say. And know this now. What you say to yourself is what will stop you in your tracks and have you in fear long before what somebody else says to you. I'll go back to my 8th grade teacher. What she said to me is crap. And she pulled me out in the hallway and pinned me against the wall and said, "You're going to be a loser your entire life." That is crap. That really, talk about a demoralizing thing. Plain and simple. One of two things could have happened in that situation. I could have went, "You're right. I'm a loser, blah, blah, blah." And I could have lived in fear my whole life of, the fact that I'm a loser, I'm an idiot, I'm never going to do anything. And I could have done nothing. But in that moment, what I said to myself far outweighed, "She gonna catch them hands. Go at her, Morg. Do it." But in that moment, what I said to myself far outweighed anything she could have ever said to me. And I'm telling you, that has been my saving grace all the way through. I am successful quote unquote, successful today in my terms, maybe not the world's terms, because I have convinced myself that I can do it, define it. You know, it's funny, I've talked about this, I think, on stream before. It's this idea of, there's a phrase, and I forget where it came. I always want to say it's Abraham Lincoln, but I don't think it is. It's one of those, it's another like Tony Robbins type guy. The phrase is, if it's got to be, it's up to me. And as corny as that sounds, there was a lot of validity and truth to it. Because I can tell you all day long, oh, you can do it. You're a superstar. You're a blah, blah, blah. Come on, Albert. You can go out there and you can conquer the world. You can be president if you want to. The reality is, if you don't go do it, it ain't going to happen. I can give you every tool on the planet, and I can teach you how to use it. If you don't ever pick one up, meh. Great. That's a nice drill you got there. It's up to you. You got to do it. And that's the whole premise at Rise Above. That's why when we interview our kids, it comes down to after an hour and a half conversation with these kids, it comes down to a 2-sentence statement. Do you want to do this? Yes or no? That's the entry requirement. Do you want to do this? It's up to you. Mom can't force you. I'm not going to force you. You either want to do it or you don't. If you don't, thanks. Nice meeting you. Here's my business card. You call me anytime you change your mind. I will rise up with you and we will get over this hump together. Period. But if you say no, there is nothing I can do to help you. It is up to you. Even if you say yes and you come here, I am not going to force you to do anything. I'm going to show you. I'm going to walk with you. But I flat out refuse to give you anything for free. And I flat out refuse to do anything for you that you aren't capable of doing for yourself. If I do it for you, I steal your self-worth and I make you lazy. If you can do it, there's no reason why you shouldn't do it, unless you've told yourself otherwise. "99% of our kids that come in here believe they can't do it. My job is to teach them that you can do it, so do it. I'll get out of the way. You make a mistake, come ask me. I'll help you. I'm not gonna beat you up for it. All right, it happened. Big deal. All right, how do we get over it? Let's fix it. Let's go on. I'm not going to sit there and cower in fear. Oh my gosh, you did that thing. Because that's what everyone else does. That's why we kick kids out of school, because we're afraid of them. Oh, what if he does it again? You're going to go home and watch porn while your wife is on the couch. Like, hello? You're going to give a kid who's 14 years old crap for... Get out of here. People drive me nuts. I just sinned. I judged a little bit there. Fires me up, man. I tell you. We steal kids' lives. Steal kids' lives when we lie to them about who they are and what they can and can't do. When we label kids as the bad kid or you're just a solid C student. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with being a C student. What? Absolutely there is. You're not average. You're there because you didn't try. Why are you going to say that's okay? Just be honest with him. You're a C student because you didn't do your freaking homework all year. Because you didn't study for the tests. Don't just sit there and go, oh, it's okay. C's. C's okay. It's just the diploma it's still a diploma. You know, they don't ask you what grade you got. It just says you graduated. What? Why would you settle for that? As an educator, as a parent. And in the environment we're in here, where we're talking about life, not freaking math and science. Well, I guess that's life too, but why would you ever settle for a C in your life, in your marriage, with your kids? Pardon the expression, but F that. I want an A+ life. Give me extra credit, damn it. Let's go all in. It makes no sense to me that we would not. The only reason why you don't is because you say it's okay. Period. Yeah, F that. If you're a C student, it's only because you haven't found the class that you love yet. Find what you love, you will be an A+ student if you choose to be. I was a solid DE student in math because it's not my subject. I would fail math, but I took 5 years of French in high school. Why? Because I found languages easy. I didn't love it, but I liked it. So I did it. It wasn't because I wasn't smart enough to do math. I just didn't like it, so I didn't do it. I didn't do the test. I literally just would write whatever on the test. 3. Well, okay, sure. Yeah, that is exactly what I'm talking about. That is the worst teacher on the planet. Fired. That teacher's a solid C student. Angry. I'm not, but just felt like I needed to say that. That is the biggest hurdle. That is the courage question. How do I convince you? How do I get you excited enough about who you are and what you can do while I have a hold of you to get you to a point where you can believe in yourself, have the courage to do the scary things? Like Albert said, to get that kid to talk to you and play with your kids for the first time, and to get excited to tell mom, hey, mom, the neighbor's kids are awesome. Or to get you excited to the point where your inhibitions fall far enough that you're willing to apply for that job that you never thought you could do and just say, F it, I'm going for it. Why? Because I'm good enough. I can do that. I'm telling you, man, there is something to be had when it comes to courage. If you can convince yourself that you can, listen to me right now, you will. There is nothing that can stop somebody that has the will to do it. Except you. Listen, think about every time you failed. I'm going to end on this. Think about every time that you failed in your life. I would hazard a guess to say the vast majority of the times that you failed. That's why I love you, Mort, because you're that girl. That girl. Think about the time that you failed. I'm willing to guess that the vast majority of the times where you say, I failed my driver's test, or I failed that exam, or I failed at that relationship, I guarantee you, if you're honest with yourself, you're probably culpable. Meaning you're at fault. You probably didn't prepare well enough. You may have even tried to cheat. Or maybe you did cheat. You maybe were overconfident, thinking, it can't fail. They can't survive without me, so why would they ever fire me? That overconfidence, you know what I'm talking? Anyone recognize this yet? Oh, I don't need to study for that exam. I know this material. I read the book last year. Oh, my wife would never leave me. Kidding me? How's she ever going to replace me? Look at me. Why would she? I don't have to do who does that's my wife's job. I don't mean that. It's actually my kid's job. Right? Be honest with yourself. Think of the time that you failed most recently. A stupid cop, can't believe he gave me a speeding ticket. What a jerk. No. Speed limit's 50. You were doing 65. Meh. He didn't wake up that morning, or she didn't wake up that morning and go, you know what? I'm gonna give Andy a ticket for doing 65 today. Yeah. I know he's only gonna do 50, but I'm gonna give him a 65 today. No, I'm gonna guess that you were actually doing 65, and that guy just happened to be in the right spot at the right time and caught your sorry ass speeding. So you're out that $250 because you chose to do something stupid. True story. And that is the crux of all of our failures. It's our inability to prepare or to act appropriately in a given situation, and or failure to do anything at all. Oh, my kids are horrible. They misbehave. They skip school. They're doing this. They're doing that. Well, that is a lot to do with you and your inability to stand up for your kids. If your dad, be the freaking alpha male in the house, would you? If your mom, be mom and love your kids to a place where they don't want to disappoint you. Regardless of who you are, love your kids. And they will love you back. If you don't love your kids, they're going to screw around. Same with your wife, same with your husband. If you don't love them, they will seek love elsewhere. Hint. You might want to write that one down. If your relationship sucks, look at yourself first before you look at them. What are you doing to make it not suck? That one might hurt a few. Failure usually starts at home before it starts somewhere else. Have the courage to look inward before you point outward. You will find tremendous success in doing so if you're honest with yourself. Make sense? All right. I think I'm going to call it there. We've been going for 2 hours here, and I need to shut up for a bit. Thank you, Andy, Uncle Jim, Diablo, Morg. Now you're back. I'm just signing off, and you're back. Hope the walk was good. Hope Neville had a good run. Yeah, I think... Hope you had a good run, Andy. Oh, you had to shower. Eee. Andy, go back and watch the last part of this VOD. I'd love to get your feedback on this. Because, really? That's so awesome that he's so playful that way. Not many dogs will, some dogs will play, but not many will actually get into it. I had a Springer Spaniel that was like that. That man, he saw water, he was right in there. Dog just loved water. Oh, there you go. The spaniel in him just is like, give me the water. I want the waters. Yeah, absolutely. But, all right, dudes and dudettes. The old Risky's got to get back to work downstairs. Appreciate you all coming in. Andy, I'll be on your stream tonight. I'll be checking you out, saying hi. I'm not sure how the gym routine's going to work today, whether I'm going early or late or whatnot. Andy, thanks for tuning in. Morg, thanks for hanging out with me all day. And Morg, this one was for you, kiddo. You got this. You know you do. Everybody, listen to me. There isn't a person that I know that doesn't think you're a freaking rock star. Everybody thinks you're a rock star. Heck, there's even emotes about you. Whatever you set your mind to, you will achieve. I believe in you. We believe in you. Go get it. Don't be afraid. Have the courage, kiddo. Thanks, everybody, for staying tuned in. Thanks for engaging. Thanks for having the courage to be part of the conversation. Thank you, Bushman. And this is a hard one, not going to lie. This is one that takes a lot of accountability and self-ownership. And but honestly, at the end of the day, is the one that will produce the greatest results in you. And truly will take you places you never thought were possible for yourself. So, again, thank you to all the new subs. Andy, thank you for the resub and for gifting one to Don. Andy, 13 months, guy. That's so awesome. Uncle Jim, welcome back again. Like I said, for 14 months. Diablo back for 14 months. Morgan being back for a whole year. Happy birthday. And Morg, don't ever be afraid to reach out to me. You know how to get a hold of me anytime you want. That goes with all of you. I'm always just a direct message away if you ever want to chat about anything. I don't have all the answers, but if nothing else, I'm willing to sit and listen and just to be an ear. So, all right, I'm out. Thanks, guys. Thanks again. Morg, I'll be praying for you in the next steps and everything else that's going on. And y'all have a great day, and we'll hopefully see you in the other streams. Andy, we'll see you in a couple hours in your stream, buddy. Later, all. Appreciate you all, and have a great day. Don't forget Thursday's leg day. Ciao for now.